I suppose you could say only in Marin about this next story, but actually it could probably happen in Berkeley too, except that East Bay berg is missing the key ingredient, or should I say key creature. It goes by the scientific name Porichthys notatus. Nothing scientific about the festivities in Sausalito today. A few thousand lighthearted folk got together to celebrate the return of this little guy to Richardson Bay. He's the humming toadfish, and his tune goes kind of like this.
They were hopeful that it might be the sewer plant or the Army Corps of Engineers or any number of culprits that they could sue and say, turn off that racket. It just turns out to be a fish, and you can't tell the fish to be quiet.
Houseboat residents have finally gotten used to the annual mating cry of the toadfish. They don't have much choice either. It took them quite a while to figure out what all the racket was about. I wonder what he thinks about all of this. All for the toadfish.
Yeah, it was quite a mystery, especially for those houseboat dwellers down there in Sausalito.
About 4 years ago, the houseboat residents of Sausalito couldn't believe their ears. What was that infernal humming sound that was keeping them awake at night? Theories ranged from sea monsters to submarines to the CIA. Well, the humming turned out to be the love call of the toadfish, and now that they have been properly introduced, the residents of Sausalito responded by throwing a party today, the first annual Toadfish Festival. Vern Hawkins reports.
The usually tranquil waters of Sausalito are humming with the sounds of fish, toadfish, that at night audition for mates, and the noise has houseboaters growling.
It's the sort of thing where you could get used to it, but these fish have an incredible deal where they will hum and all of a sudden stop, all of them at once. So it's like all of a sudden you wake up because it's quiet, and then they start humming again.
So the boaters decided to capitalize on the enemy and launched Sausalito's first ever Toadfish Festival, passing out hundreds of kazoos to people. The kazoos sort of sound like toadfish. Some say the toadfish sound better. A houseboater organized the festival.
The humming toadfish were humming and mating under my houseboat, and I was angry and upset and saying, God, I've got to get some rest. I've got to go to work the next morning. And I said, what can I do? You know, what can we do as a group, as a community? And I thought, well, if we can't beat them, at least we can join them. Why not celebrate them?
The song says that love is a many-splendored thing, but for some members of God's kingdom, it's a real hummer. Of course, that can be a nuisance if you're not in on the humming. Confused? Let NBC's Douglas Kiker sort it out.
Birds do it. Bees do it.
When toadfish do it here in the waters off Sausalito, California, they hum. Every year in late July and August, along about sunset, the toadfish of Sausalito hum while they do it. Enough of them get at it, they sound like a foghorn. They say they got to do this again next year, and they probably will, Californians. Douglas Kiker, NBC News, at the first annual Humming Toadfish Festival. I say again, at the first annual Humming Toadfish Festival in Sausalito, California.
This nightly news for this Monday night.
Well, if you happen to be near Sausalito today and heard a loud humming noise like this one, you hear it? Yeah? Well, there was nothing wrong with your hearing. It was the second annual Toadfish Festival. The creatures that started all of this were discovered in Richardson Bay 4 years ago after houseboat dwellers complained about loud humming noises at night. The noise turned out to be the toadfish mating call. Sort of different. Since they couldn't stop it, they decided to make noise themselves.
Folks in the quaint seaside village of Sausalito, California are celebrating instead of complaining because of some strange noises during their summer nights. CNN correspondent Greg Lefebvre reports on how a community is turning sleepless nights into cause for celebration.
Ah, the hums of summer. It's time for the annual return of the singing toadfish to Sausalito Harbor. So in typical California fashion, Sausalitans cope with these fitful, sleepless nights by throwing a party, the Humming Toadfish Festival. Toadfish are shy, reluctant fish, for good reason, according to this year's festival king.
They're very spiny-backed, largemouth, not good looking. You can see why they court in dark, muddy waters.
Last year's king, marine biologist John McCosker, says underwater noises are quite common.
There's shrimps popping and cracking, the sound of a shark swimming by, boom, makes a noise with its tail, a big grouper. There's a lot of racket down there, so this fish has to make a lot of noise in order for it to be heard above the racket of the other animals on the...
Figuring that a noisy turnabout is fair play, festival organizers have included a kazoo parade. They've not gone so far as to put sushi on the menu, however. Greg LaFave, CNN, Sausalito, California.
Lou, I've got a hum under this desk. That's Prime News. For this edition, I'm Bernard.
That's all, folks.